I'd like to welcome everybody to the Coaches in the Mouth pod. Coach Jeff Williams here, along with Coach Bray Cook, the Mouth Bender. Man, I tell you what, we're gearing up here. Week 1 of Razorbacks football starting this week. We had a great week 0 last week, which we'll go back and recap later on. Plus, getting ready for our week 1 high school games, different picks, and so. Man, we got a lot to cover, and we're very excited about it. Let's just jump into it with the Hogs. I mean, we're traveling to War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock. Got Western Carolina, kind of in most people's eyes, a little bit of a tune-up game. Bray, what do you want to see from the Hogs? Through the situation, we understand we're not playing for the SEC championship this week, but it does matter. Talk to us a little bit, Bray, and I'm gonna get your expertise on this. Is as a player, you know what's going on a little bit.
Sure.
Like
to think so.
Yeah, yes, but the capability of the team that you're fixing to play. They're probably not as talented as your team. Talk to us as a player when you were playing at the University of Arkansas, knowing you're going to Little Rock to travel, which we've talked earlier. You let play at War Memorial Stadium in the central Arkansas, the part of state. And talk to us about those type of games, especially open up, which you're going to be excited. Every player's excited about open up, but the mindset in those games.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing that comes to mind thinking about this weekend's game is it being in Little Rock and what that kind of means for the current football team, for the fan base, for the state of Arkansas. How important is it to the football team and to the fans to make that place as electric as it has been in the past? And I think that is very important. So really interested to see how that place kind of erupts, I guess might be the right word, because I've seen it both ways. I've seen it in there and played some games where, you can't even think. You can't think, it's so loud. I've also been there where it's pretty dang quiet. And you can think very well, and you can think about how you're losing some ball games, which is not fun. But I hope that the fan base shows up in Little Rock. Now, as far as football team's concerned, obviously with a new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you want to see them be able to execute, and that's the week 1 battle that I think every team at every level faces. Is can you just run your offense, your defense, and eliminate those mental errors? And yeah, I know it's a Western Carolina, obviously. And then, I'm not saying that we're going to go in there and run all over them, but as a Razorback fan, you want to think that we're going to go in there and just focus on ourselves, focus on our technique, our assignment, and complete, or I guess achieve what Coach Enos is trying to get our offense to achieve. And that's just rolling through seamless without the mistakes.
Well, I'm going to ask you another question about that is the preparation part of it. Everybody goes into a game, they got a couple things schemed up. In these games like this where everything's pretty base, was it we bring some extra wrinkles to the table? Do you think the Hogs will be pretty base in what they do on both sides of the ball?
I would hope so. Like I said, there's no reason to go out here and throw everything at Western Carolina. You should be able to go in there and execute and perform. So for me, like I said, it's just the mental things or little things, excuse me. And one thing I am interested to see and I'd like to track is the penalties. Yeah. Are we going to be able to just go through and not get in our own way? Because whenever we start playing some of these opponents that are on our schedule, very, very, very soon, September 16th, BYU, those little mistakes really hurt you. So can we play a clean football game Saturday?
Well, and that's a big deal, obviously. Mouth, going into this, and we've joked about special teams, which
I know I've got a 3-week.
You got a 3-week window on this, but going into it, especially in college football or any football, NFL, going into the first week of the game, special teams play a big role. What are you looking forward next week watching the Hogs play? What are you specifically, eyeing on? Are you looking at the offensive line, defensive line? What are you looking for?
I am. I'm specifically looking at how how we're able to execute our new offense under Dan Enos. How KJ is KJ proficient at running it, or are he and our receivers on the same page? How is our because I saw the depth chart today. They're starting tight ends Luke Haas at 9 to 18-year-old freshman. And we've got a lot of newcomers that have played a lot of football, but they haven't played at the University of Arkansas in this type of environment. I'm excited to see how these transfers on the defense, how our defensive line performs throughout the year, especially now that Bray. I've heard that they say they've got 4 draftable defensive linemen right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it's been a long time since Arkansas's had 4 draftable defensive linemen in the rotation right now, and I'm just excited to see how our new we got a new guard coming in this year from the University of Florida, Josh Braun, who's been a starter at Florida at times. I'm just real excited to get this first game out of the way, and the main thing, hope we don't have any major injuries the first week.
Well, and
stay healthy.
And you bring the injuries up. They lost Catalan last year against Cincinnati. I'm looking more at the physicality, just what Coach we had on earlier, talking about the mental toughness and the physicality, posing your will on somebody up front on both sides of the ball. And Bray, you've been a part of these games like this, and that's the biggest difference. I mean, Western Carolina's going to have some good skill guys and things like that. It all gets down to the guys up front on both sides of the ball, and that's really what I'm looking forward to see, the physicality, what Coach is talking about, and on both sides of the ball. But elaborate a little bit into that, and because there's a big difference in a man your size and a guy that is playing right guard at Western Carolina. Western Carolina, it's
one of the things I think is important to think about too is through this podcast we talked to all these coaches who talk about the transfer portal and recruiting and how it's all changed. I mean, those schools like Western Carolina, you can find some dudes out there who are floating around the transfer portal, and that dynamic of college football has completely changed. And I'm not super familiar with their roster, but there could be some guys on that team that'll surprise you. And so I hope that, and I keep on going back to focus on us and do the things that we're trying to execute, because that is the most important thing. But they could have some guys over there that'll surprise you, and I wouldn't be. I'll be looking for that. I'll be honest.
Well, and the upfront part of it is the domination part, and that's usually what you get those big scores and runaway scores and things like that. But it'd be very interesting. See, great warm up game. I mean, it's totally different than last year. You're going in playing Cincinnati, who's coming off a semifinal appearance, and just their mindset. And Coach talked about mental toughness. Hey, doesn't matter who's on our schedule, we're ready to play. In the physicality part. Well, let's go to a different direction. Let's just turn our mouth. You were down in Fort Smith Friday night for the great football game with Northside and Southside, and let's kind of start with that game. A lot of surprises, and then on the other hand, week 0, a lot of people did what we expected them to do. With their picks, I think. You were 8-2 last week. I was 8-2 last week. But start with that game. Tell me about your experience. Tell our audience about that atmosphere this past week at Jim Rowland Stadium. And I believe they honored Coach Rowland. And what'd you see?
Wow! First off, what a first class operation to have at Fort Smith Southside. My hats off to Coach Beaumont, Mike Beaumont, the athletic director, and Kim and Coach Dameron and his staff. They made me feel welcome. It was just an outstanding, electric night, and to get it all started, the Southside and the Fort Smith School District was able to recognize Coach Jim Rowland I guess you could say, Mr. Fort Smith in an athletic realm. Was the head coach there at Southside High School from 1970, I believe, to 81, and then moved on to assistant principal at Southside, and then athletic director for the entire district, and had just done everything you could possibly do as an athlete, as a coach, as an administrator, and it was great to see him get his just dues last night.
Well, and I had an opportunity to work for Coach, and he's just an outstanding man, one of the best guys I've ever worked for, and has done so much for Fort Smith Public Schools. Get into the game part of it. You talk about back and forth.
Wow.
Let's hit that in just a few minutes, and because we got a couple others to cover. Just to recap a little bit, talk to us. What did you see out there?
I saw two very good high school football teams, first and foremost, and I saw two teams that left it all out there on the field. They were going 150 miles an hour. It was a game of ebb and flow a little bit. Southside gets the ball first series. They run it right down there, score. It looks like they stop Northside on their first drive. Looks like they're going to score again, and they have a bad snap on 4th and 1 from the 42, and that Northside scores. At the back and forth first half, Northside scored going into half with about a minute 24 left in the first half to take a 21-14 lead. And coming out in the third quarter, I mean, Southside just imposed their will physically running the ball with that massive offensive line that they have. And when it got tied up 21-21, it was game on the rest of the way. I think the second half took 2 hours and 20 minutes to play. It was game on. It was just back and forth and back and forth, and just a great testament to both teams. The stars showed out for both teams. It was just an outstanding atmosphere. It was my first time to ever watch Southside or Northside live ever, and I'd go back again.
Yeah,
I promise you.
And it's a phenomenal atmosphere. And Southside, and let's go on to another team that's really surprised coming in week 0 was Van Buren. I mean, Van Buren put up a bunch of points against Alma. I actually watched that on live stream, and man, they can move the football, and them and Southside actually match up this week. So, if you kind of look through what happened week 0, like we said, a lot of things people took care of, and things happened what we expected. Probably one of the biggest surprises was Lakeside over Lake Hamilton. I've heard Lake Hamilton, maybe not as talented as been, but Tommy Gillerin does a great job. And Lakeside, with a new coach coming in, goes over and gets an upset. So that's really shocking. Then you go up here again, you got Cabot coming into Fayetteville. We thought that was a big game. Obviously looks like Cabot made a few mistakes, and Fayetteville capitalized on it. And then the other big one, a team that we've been harping on, like just felt like really good about, was West Memphis. West Memphis goes over to Jonesboro, another big rival game, and Jonesboro and Coach George first game as a head coach. They go in and upset the West Memphis Blue Devils. Now, for all the fans out there, be patient, because it's week 0, and by week 10, we won't even remember what happened week 0. So everybody stay patient, and because everything can change. Go ahead, let's talk a little bit about, Fayetteville, Van Buren, Jonesboro, and Lakeside.
Coach, before we get on to that topic, can I ask you I want to ask you, is it easier to correct the type mistakes that Fayetteville had? I mean, those are correctable. That Cabot had against Fayetteville, those are correctable errors. Correct. You're not happy that they happened, but you feel like and with a week, we can correct that and be ready next.
Yeah,
Friday.
well, absolutely. I mean, you go in and make mistakes. I mean, week 0 and things, and the old saying is you make more improvement from your first game to second game, and I firmly believe that. And Cabot made mistakes, but you got to give Fayetteville credit. I mean, Fayetteville, took care of business at home and dominated Cabot. I mean, just pretty much dominated. And you get the Lakeside Lake Hamilton, and then I'm going to leave you with this, and we'll get into our BSN Player of the Week with Danny McCuin here in just a second. Is talk to me a little bit. I mean, you've seen West Memphis. You were real high on them. How shocking was that with Jonesboro?
I was flabbergasted when I heard the score on Rex Nelson's show last night. I said, surely he's wrong, but because I know that Jonesboro coming into this year they've been down. They've had 2 coaches in less than 6 months, with Quad Sanders coming from Bryant, and then with the turnover at Bryant, Quad going back to going from Jonesboro back to Bryant, and now Jonesboro. What a victory for their first year head coach, Coach George. What a way to get. That's a big victory and a great way to get. That's a great program builder right there. He put his stamp on the Jonesboro program.
Well, which is huge, and that's such a big game. Well, let's go on and do this. Let's go ahead and bring Danny McCuin on. He's got our BSN Player of the Week. Let's bring him on. Danny, welcome to our podcast.
Hey, I'm honored to be here, Coach Williams.
I tell you what, you're going to talk about a young man here in a minute. We already talked about you're going to feature a player each week. Talk to our audience a little bit how that you came about this, starting this an award each week during the football season. How who's on the committee and who does all these things. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I use an old phrase that I heard from Tommy Tice a long time ago at a coach's clinic. He said, everything I'm getting ready to show you guys, I stole from somebody else. So my BSN Arkansas Player of the Week, I stole it from my co-manager that's in Knoxville, Tennessee. He'd started doing it. And I thought that's a great way to honor some kids. And I love the game of high school football, being around the kids. So we started it back in 2016, and I'm going to say we've probably honored 80 players over the years of doing it, and had some really, really neat times being around the kids and being able to honor them for their accomplishments. But we established it as being the Arkansas Player of the Week for the whole state, regardless of classifications. We've awarded it to kids at West Memphis, Bryant, and Bauxite or Prairie Grove. We've been all over the state doing it, and we have a great time doing it and being around the kids.
Well, it's a big honor, and you do a great job with it, and we'll share your video with our audience. Well, go ahead and talk to us. I mean, man, what a bunch of great games last week. I mean, it's unbelievable. We were talking earlier, me in the mouth, and about them earlier, and some great performances all over the state of Arkansas. And so it was a difficult choice, but what'd you come up with?
Yeah. So we look through, we look at stats, we look in the newspaper, we watch a little bit of huddle, and obviously on social media. So we saw that the Searcy Lions had a big win last Friday night. First time they've won their opening game since 2019, and beat Batesville 53-19. So Coach Zach Clark and the new Lion offense were clicking, and it's exciting to see that. So we're going to award the BSN Arkansas Player of the Week for week 0 to his quarterback, Tyler Strickland. Tyler had a big night last Friday against Batesville. He was 16 out of 28 passing for 201 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also carried the mail 11 times on the ground, had 103 yards rushing, and spread the ball around. The offense was really clicking. Coach Clark was excited because every play he called was working. And then He obviously found a kid that he really likes, a kid named Jesse Sumter. He caught all 3 of the touchdown passes and had 142 yards receiving. So he's found his favorite target. But we honored Tyler Strickland with our Week 0 Player of the Week.
Man, actually I went back and watched that game on live stream. What an incredible performance. You know, Zach's always done a great job offensively and quarterbacks, and Logan English and those guys have done a great job with him. But man, that guy could, he can run it. He can move around well, throws it well, and man, I know that's a tough choice, but I couldn't bet against that one. I can tell you, he had an outstanding game.
Zach has found the guy to run his offense, and we all know Zach's a great play caller, and I'm excited to see what the Lions are going to do for the rest of the year.
Well, we are too. They're off this week, and they'll get right into that 6A East Conference play right out of the chute. Well, Danny, appreciate you coming on. We'll have you on next week, and who are you going to see this week?
That's a tough call, but I think I'm going to make the trip down to Whitehall and watch the Bulldogs and the Warren.
Well, that's one of our top 10 games of the week, and
yeah, should be a really good one.
Yeah. Well, Whitehall had a great performance last week, and that's been a great game the last couple of years. And Coach Emery have them ready to go. But we'll have fun on Friday. We'll see you back next week. Thanks for coming on.
You bet. Thanks for what you guys are doing for high school sports.
Man, what an awesome thing that Danny McCuin does with the BSN Player of the Week, and does it every week. And I tell you what, man, credit that young man. What a great football game. All right, Mouth, let's get into our picks for this week. Our top 10 game of the week. Let's head down again to South Arkansas. El Dorado, who was off last week, did not play Week 0, goes into Camden Fairview. Camden Fairview had a big victory over Arkadelphia last week. This is another big rivalry.
This is a big one right here, 17 miles apart.
Yes, and they've gone back and forth over the year. Mouth, who you got in this ball game? Because you were real big on family last week.
Yeah,
and kind of homered it out here. You've got El Dorado, you got ties there, and then you got Nick Vaughn over at Fairview. Who are you taking in this one?
I got to ride with the Fairview Cardinals. I'm gonna ride with Nick Vaughn and the Fairview Cardinals.
Well, and I'm gonna go with. It hates me to do this, but I'm gonna go with the Fairview Cardinals also. Grandma Na is going to stay there in Union County and head for the Wildcats, and that's I think that's just a pick'em game. Let's go on here. We're going over. This is a very interesting matchup. Little Rock Mills, who's got some outstanding players, had a great season last year, driving over to Wilson, Arkansas, and Rivercrest. Who you got there?
Wow, 2 talented teams. Oh man, I'm gonna go with Mills. I'm gonna go with Little Rock Mills.
Going Mills. Well, I'm gonna do this. I like the Rivercrest Colts this year. I think they've got a chance. I've heard they're loaded. I think they've got a really good football team, and they've got a lot of tradition over there. Me and Grandma Na are going with the Rivercrest Colts. All right, let's head back down to South Arkansas. This game here, Whitehall last week against Sheridan, just dominated. Warren dominated against Stuttgart. Coach Bo and his group and the Lumberjacks are headed down to Pine Bluff and play Whitehall. Who you got? The Warren Lumberjacks at Whitehall.
First of all, let me congratulate Whitehall on the victory, Week 0, with their with all that program's been through they've been through more in the past 6 months than any team in any sport should ever have to. They lost a player. They lost Coach Mallett. Tough spot. Great victory for their first-year head coach last night. But I am, I'm always have to go with Coach Bo Hembry and Warren till they prove me wrong.
Well,
and I'm gonna ride it out with Coach Bo.
Well, I'm gonna go with Coach Bo also. Grandma Na is gonna go with Whitehall, and I think this game is an interesting matchup because Man, Whitehall's got a guy that can just fly and is unbelievable and got some big linemen. I'm going to go with Warren. Grandma Na's going with Whitehall. All right, this is a game I think is very interesting. We're headed kind of to the River Valley here. We've got Russellville at Lakeside. Lakeside comes off a huge win off against rival Lake Hamilton, and Russellville's coming off a big win over Moulton, who's another one of their rivals. Who you like in this one?
Well, I'm gonna shock people. I'm gonna go with Lakeside.
Going with Lakeside.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well, everybody would have took Lake Hamilton last week. Lakeside proved them wrong. So I'm going to stay with Russellville. I think Coach Wheeler does a great job, and I think he's got a very, very good defense. Grandma Nas also going with Russellville. All right, here we go. And your buddy down at Ozark is hosting the Boonville Bearcats. This is always a big game. This is always a huge physical game. Who are you taking?
Man, I got to ride with the big man, Jeremy Burns, and the Ozark Hillbillies.
I'm going to go with Boonville, and Grandma Na's going with Boonville. This game goes back and forth. All right, here we go. There's another one. Battle of the private schools a little bit here. Got Shiloh Christian headed down to Little Rock to play Little Rock Christian. Little Rock Christian comes off a very impressive win. A lot of people think they're state contenders in 6A. Obviously, Shiloh's in the state finals last year. They're coming off another big victory in week 0. Who you like?
I'm going with the Saints.
Going with the Saints?
I'm going with Shiloh.
Coach Williams and Grandma and I are going with Little Rock Christian. Think it's on the road. It could be tough. Let's head down to Southwest Arkansas. This is a big rival. We got Glen Rose at Malvern. Glen Rose is coming off a double overtime loss to Crossett. Tough football game. Malvern lost last week, but played a very difficult opponent. Talk to me about this one.
Oh, man. Till they prove me wrong, I'm going with the defending 4A state champions, Malvern, in this game.
I'm going to go with Malvern also. I think they've got a very good football team. Coach Keener at Glen Rose had a tough game this week. I just think they're just a little bit too much to handle. Grandma Na, though, believes in Coach Keener and is going with Glen Rose. All right, back up here, we got Elkins, who is Coach Watson and them. Everybody's high on those guys against defending 3A state champion Charleston. Going to the River Valley again. Who you liking this one?
I'm going with the Elks from Elkins.
I am too. I just think they've got too much skill for Charleston. Grandma Na is also going with Elkins. I just think that they just got too much firepower offensively for them.
And Elkins is coming off hanging 52.
Yes, sir.
On Pottsville.
Let's go to the northern part of the state. This is a huge rival. Got Harrison coming off a win against a much improved Springdale team. Have Mountain Home coming in with a one-game winning streak over Nettleton, who a lot of people favored to win the 5A West. Mountain Home is a much improved team. They also beat Jonesboro in a scrimmage earlier this year. Harrison at Mountain Home.
Oh, man, that's going to be a great game because Mountain Home obviously is much improved from last year. But I've got to go with the Goblins.
Going with the Goblins. And Grandma and I and Coach Williams also. I'm going to go with the Goblins also. It just, man, I think this game could go either way, but it is what it is. Last game, the game you're going to be attending this Friday night, probably the marquee game in the state. Buck James makes his debut with the Conway Wampus Cats at Bentonville, who Bentonville's coming off a 41-0 win over a powerhouse in Tulsa and Broken Arrow. Conway's got to make this long trip. Brent, you're going to be there. Tell me what you believe and tell me what you're looking for.
I'm looking forward to this game. Just two great high school teams getting after it. two of the very best, and Jody Grant from Bentonville and Buck James at Conway. They're two of the very best doing it right now. And pains me to do it because Buck James is a friend of the show. But, all winning streaks have to come to an end, and I see Bentonville beating them this week.
Wow. And I've gone back and forth on this. Bentonville has a game underneath their belt. Conway has beat them the last 2 years. Trust me, if anybody knows, Bentonville is a very, 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 very tough place to play. Grandma Na is going to go with Bentonville. Coach Jeff Williams is going to stay with Conway. I think this is the only reason I think this thing can go either way. I think Conway's got a lot of firepower on offense, and they're going to be able to throw around on the field a little bit. And this is a one score. It's a toss up. And Jody and them at Bentonville, they're a great job defensively, but what do we see from Buck James? First outing, he didn't know either. Really, he hadn't seen him.
And the main, I'm going to tell our listeners or people that are listening and watching, the main reason I'm going with Bentonville is they've got a week 0 game under their belt and have had a chance to. Will have had a week to work out all the kinks from the first game. Obviously, there weren't many because they beat Tulsa, Washington 48-0.
No, they played Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow, my bad.
That was Bentonville West. Don't get them confused. We'll have a bunch of bad comments on our show.
Forgive me. Forgive me.
Don't get those guys confused at all. Well, that's our picks for this week. Let's move on. We're going to do a segment every week. We're going to bring on the Triple Crown, their main guy, Derek Brazil. He's going to give us a couple picks so people can kind of, maybe make a friendly wager on the weekend. And let's go ahead and bring him on. Derek, how you doing? How's your summer been? You've had a big, big summer. Adding on to the family. Talk to us a little bit about your summer.
Yeah, man. So been really busy with my real job, which, I'm the director out of Ream, run the R&D there. So we've been really busy there. But other than that, adding on to the family, 3 girls, 5, 3, and now 0. And so, keeping me busy. I'm an old dad, 39 years old. So just staying busy with that and watching horses and playing sports. That's what I do.
Well, good deal. They grow up fast. Well, we're going into a big weekend. Probably as a handicapper, I don't know. I'm going to ask you, is this one of the hardest weekends going in because of the unknown factor of special teams and things like that? You got a few games. Talk to us about the games that you like this week and talk to us a little bit going into first week of the season, especially with college football.
Yeah, so the main thing is you're right. This first week is always tough. Nobody knows really, especially with transfer portal. I mean, heck, who knows who somebody transferred to another team and how they're going to turn out. And so that's kind of made it a little bit more difficult over the last year or so. But there are a few trends and statistics that I follow with college football. And, I'll talk about a few of those as we walk through these games. But no, it's great. Honestly, I love NFL first few weeks more because you can do a little bit more research. You got the preseason games to kind of judge off, you can watch injuries a little bit better. I've been currently playing MLB a lot because now we're in the race towards the pennants, right? And with that, I've been doing really, really well on with parlays and things of that nature. And I send you some of my success stories every now and then, Jeff. So, but with that, I think that we got a pretty good slate this weekend. I'm really actually more excited for next weekend, the Texas and Alabama game. We talk more about that later. But this week, I pinpointed 4 games that I think I'm going to single. But this is a good weekend to parlay, right? Because I'm not a big parlay guy, but whenever you got games like this, you can parlay. You can kind of obviously pick the winners. You just got to kind of work the odds on what you think your lottery ticket is and then try it, right? I mean, it's kind of what the first weekend's all about. So, I guess to start it off, obviously I got a Razorback hat on. I'm the biggest Razorback fan there is. First game I pick will be Hogs, right? I mean, I think the Hogs, the lines, first of all, is crazy. It's minus 34.5, but yeah, it's crazy. I know it's a lot. And so, but what I do is, especially on these games, is I push the line, so I buy points. And so what I'm doing is I'm buying points down to 27.5 that gets it under 4 touchdowns. And as I was kind of doing a little research and just reading about the, Western Carolina and Arkansas, obviously I know their team really well, obviously, but Sanders is the key to this game, right? In my mind, I was looking at it, and he's large. He's bigger than 9 of their 11 defensive starters, and so I don't see them even getting close to stopping him. And then if he's going to do that, then KJ's going to punch a few in. I see us actually scoring quite a bit, and so I think we'll cover 4 touchdowns. And so that's my first play on the card.
So you like the Hogs?
Yeah, the Hogs. I think. I mean, it's hard for me to always bet on or against the Hogs, because it's usually like I leave mad or I leave. I never would bet against this, but I think this week with our team we have this year, I think that we're going to come in and mean business. So second game is another Saturday game, and that is Ohio State at Indiana. And I kind of pinpointed this game and started looking through there. Ohio State's in a quarterback challenge, or 2 quarterbacks start fighting for starting jobs. And then so I went and kind of was reading about Indiana. Indiana's in the same position. Actually, both of where Ohio State's quarterback went second in the NFL draft, C.J. Stroud. Indiana's quarterbacks, they both transferred. And so last year, if you look at the score, like one of the score of the games was like 56-10 between Ohio State and Indiana, and Ohio State's won 27 straight in a row. And the quarterback that played against Ohio State last year started for Indiana. He was 6 of 9 for like 102 yards against Ohio State. And, Marvin Harrison Jr., I expect him to have a big year out of this. And so I think they're going to start off on the right foot. That line is another large line. It's minus 30.5. Same thing. Buy it below. It don't cost you much in regards to odds. Buy it below 3 touchdowns. Buy it below down to like minus 27, minus 26, and I think you're going to be safe. And so I'm going to do all these games, and then I'm going to parlay them together, and then I'll tell you what the odds will be. The third pick there will be the Sunday game, and this is probably the best game of the weekend, and that's LSU minus 2.5 at Florida State. It's really not at Florida State. It's in Florida, but it's at a neutral site. So it's not truly a home game for Florida State like everybody thinks on the card. With that, you've got 2 teams that are really good. They had a hell of a matchup last year, and this is LSU's 5, Florida State is 8. But LSU has a running back out. Emory, he's out, but they've got a stable. I mean, they're kind of like Arkansas, I mean, next guy up, I think, is going to be, and they're going to be fine. And I don't see Jaden Daniels losing his first game this year. He's in the race for Heisman. I think he's going to win this first game. So I'm taking LSU minus 2.5 points.
And we've had a bunch of people on here, and LSU, and that's a team I think you really got to watch. I think, Kelly, and he's won wherever he's been, and he's consistently gets better and builds pros. And Mike, we've talked to Mike Norvell, and he likes his team, so that's going to be a real interesting matchup. So give us one more.
All right, then the last one I have there is, Clemson at Duke, and this is I was kind of like, okay, where's the fourth game? The fourth game, this is the Monday night game. It's only one Monday night, and so I do that just so you can watch something. But Clemson at Duke, start researching that. Last year, Clemson's defense is a lot better. It's back to Dabo's defenses, right? Last year in the ACC championship game, they held North Carolina and that Mays quarterback to 10 points. And the over under, and so what I'm doing on this game is I'm playing the under. The over under is at 56. Same thing. You never play what they give you. Shove it, right? Shove it to a line that you're comfortable with. And so I'm shoving this line up to 64. That covers if it's a 35-28 game. It covers all kinds of different spreads, right? And so I think Clemson's going to – now Duke has a hell of a quarterback, but I think he hadn't faced somebody like Clemson. And so I think that I do think Clemson will win. I'm not going to take them on the spread, which is 14 points, but I think this will stay under 64. And so if you parlay off, I'm going to play each one of those games individually, and I'll probably compare them up quite a bit in different type parlays, and then I'll play them all together in a parlay. If you parlay all 4 of those together, it's plus 450, so 4.5 times what you bet. So that's my plays for the week. I think that you got a really good shot of winning all of them. I really do.
Well, we'll be checking your work. That's what as a retired coach now, that's what I like to do. I like to check everybody's work, and all those years everybody checked my work. It's time for me to check everybody else's work. Well, Derek, we appreciate you coming on. Tell our viewers how they can find you. I know it's not horse racing season. You had the hottest tip sheet at Oakland last year, but tell our audience how they can see you on social media and get your stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. So I appreciate that. So if you go to Oakland, first of all, I sell tip sheets there. I've been doing it for up to 20 years now. Started as a young teenager with my dad. My grandmother was a bookie, like I told you on the past. But with that, if you ever go into Oakland, buy the pink sheet. On social media, just look up TripleCrownThoroughbreds.com on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then I'm about to start a TikTok account. And on the TikTok account, you're actually going to be able to go to a new link that I'm developing. And from there, you can buy picks, you can buy annual picks, you can buy football picks, baseball picks, for the seasons, and we'll have different types of packages. So I'll get you that address as soon as we got it. We're in the process of developing it right now. And but yeah, it's going to be fun.
Well, good luck to you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for coming on.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. See you, bud.
Well, there are your picks for the week. So if you would like to put some money down, listen, Derek's very very qualified. He's done very well in that world. Well, let's finish this up. Another big week. We've got the Hogs playing this week. Hopefully we're going to bring in have a podcast a little bit. We'll drop with this. Bray, talk to a little bit about our next segment about our podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to be able to have some former players for the old Hogs come on in. A couple of guys that I played with Mitch Mothers and Marcus Dannenhauer. You look back at our recruiting, and obviously growing up through that, I had no idea kind of really what was going on at the time. But now looking back at it from the lens of a high school coach, I mean, it's pretty incredible what we went through as 3 offensive linemen, and even more than that with Brandon Allen and Bodenstein, the kids at Shiloh, and Kyle Frazier, and just that whole Northwest Arkansas class of 2011. So it would be cool to sit down with them and talk through some of those memories of getting recruited and traveling around and some of those stories.
Well, I think it's going to be great, and I'm very interested in it because I coached through that and coached against every one of you guys, and I'll never forget that group, especially you guys with Mitch and Marcus and you coming through in the 7A West. I mean, there were linemen galore, and three SEC Division I linemen in the same conference in Arkansas is unbelievable. That's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to. Well, let's wrap this up. Hey, another great week, Mouth. You be careful over there at Bentonville and Conway, and you get some inside for us this week. Hey, Bray, tell our viewers how to like and subscribe here on YouTube and where else they can find us.
Yeah, so our home is slowly transitioning to X. X is the place to find us. Coaches Pod. That's where you'll find our handle. You give us that follow, you give us the repost, you give us the like, and we can start making some money and do this long term. So give us a follow, give us a like there. On YouTube, we're Coaches in the Mouth Pod. You just search Coaches in the Mouth. You ought to find us pretty quickly. We're well on our way there to start making some money as well. But give us that like, give us that subscribe. I never knew how important that was until we started this thing.
Well, that's exactly right. Like and subscribe is the key words. But we're having a lot of fun in what we're doing. Well, appreciate you guys.
Can I add one
Yeah.
interesting fact about the Arkansas Western Carolina game?
Yeah.
Kerwin Bell, former Florida quarterback,
You're right.
was the backup quarterback for the Sacramento Gold Miners in the Canadian Football League when my dad coached there.
Look, and he was also an outstanding player at Florida.
Player of the year in the SEC conference.
You know, those little side notes, but I am interested seeing how week 1 turns out, who's going to improve in high school football. Let's check out our Hogs and see where they're at and look and, you know, the things Coach talked about and that, you know, what they want to accomplish this week. And guess what? NFL is right around the corner. We'll be talking some Cowboys and Chiefs also. So really looking forward to that. Hey, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. This is Jeff Williams, Bray Cook, and the Mouth Brent Bender. See you next time.